Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Boom Broadcasting presents Three from Deep. I'm your host, Jason Calenzo. Welcome to the show. We have a huge show today. I am super excited. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Finally, a big NBA trade to talk about here on Three from Deep. Guys, the Clippers are sending PJ Tucker and Mo Bamba with cash and a 2030 second-round pick to the Jazz for Patty Mills and Drew Eubank. It's like, that's not the trade we're going to talk about, guys. We are going to talk about what is on everybody's lips right now, the trade that has shook not only the NBA, but the sports world. And I say we because I am not alone. I have someone here that's going to help me with this because this news is so big. I need to bring someone on here. So for the first time on Three from Deep, I'm going to have myself a special guest. I'm going to bring in Cody from Drew Code Sports Talk. Cody, welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate it. I was really excited to get your invite, and not so much of a great day for Knicks fans, I would say, because again, we're coming off of a victory over you guys. But man, what a news to wake up to this morning, huh?
It is unbelievable. I know you got the news last night. You're over on the West Coast, so you were probably awake when you got the news. It was about almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I was asleep. And it's funny because I woke up first thing in the morning. I kind of grabbed my phone, look at my alerts. I'm like, I had an alert from Michael Davis, the Boom Broadcasting press. I'm like, what was he texting me late for? And I pull it up. He says, when you wake up, you're probably sleeping. You're going to have some big news to talk about. So I'm like, okay, Jimmy Butler finally got traded. The drama's over. Maybe Beal or Fox. I was expecting one of those that everybody's been talking about.
Right.
But then I brought up on my feeds, I'm seeing Luka, AD. Wait. And I was like, okay, fake news. Something's going on. Maybe he's joking around with me. So I put on ESPN, and there it was. Huge trade, guys. Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. And just to kind of break down the trade, the Lakers get Luka Doncic, Maxi Keebler, Markieff Morris. The Mavs get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, a 2029 first-round pick. And then the Jazz were involved in this because it was a three-team trade. You had Jalen Hood-Schifino, a pair of 2025 picks. Cody, you're over there on the West Coast. You rocking that Lakers hat right now. What was your first reaction when you saw this breaking news?
Well, when I saw this coming across my feed, the first thing I thought was, oh, this is a parody account. There's no way that this is true. There's no way. And just like what you said, oh, this is fake news. Someone's having a hoot, and just like what everybody else was assuming, oh, someone got a hold of Sham's phone and hacked it, sent out something crazy. There's no way. And then again, he reconfirms the sources like, no, it's happening. It's really happening. And then to be honest, I think what I was more shocked with, not that, that we got Luka, just because the Lakers are really known for getting main stars, Hall of Famers. It's pretty something in our history for sure. But I think what was impressive was, wow, Luka was available. Like he was not as untouchable as we all thought. Right. And then as little as the Mavericks got for him, I think is what's also startling of like, it only took AD, Max Christie, and a first-round pick to get Luka Doncic, who we all can agree when Luka is on, he's probably top 5, and some would argue like top 3 in the NBA in terms of players and what he does to a franchise. And the Lakers now go from having a 30-year-old Anthony Davis, who we thought we were going to build around post LeBron James. Now we have a 25-year-old superstar that's already in the making, and now he's in a prestigious franchise with a coach that he's worked with before when he was a player on the Mavs, ironically enough. And so again, like as you and I were kind of talking and texting offline of like, I'm still kind of shocked. Like I'm really thankful for the Lakers. This is really promising. I have some things about the rest of the season I'm concerned with, but my initial thoughts are like, my God, we got Luka. And I didn't think that was going to be in our future. Cause again, just like the rest of the sports world, everyone assumed Luka was untouchable. Like, there's one thing you can assure, which is the Dallas Mavericks aren't letting go of Luka. And yet, late last night, that's exactly what happened.
And that was a huge kind of, I want to say, revelation or biggest thing that I picked up on this is as I'm watching this whole thing break down and everybody's talking about the trade, that the Mavericks were angry at Luka, that they were complaining about him, his conditioning. He wasn't committed to his diet. That's why his injury. It's like, where did that came out of nowhere? Like, we listen, we do sports all the time. We listen to this stuff. We live this stuff. And you would think you would have heard a whisper in the wind, something. There would have been some kind of crazy rumor. But this was like completely blindsiding. And, LeBron James is in New York City. Your guys on Saturday night played my New York Knicks. LeBron drops 33, 12, and 11, because he loves playing in the Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers win 128-112. So great win for the Lakers. It was a little rough win for the Knicks. But he's at dinner in New York City and learns that this trade is going down. And AD is his boy. That's one of his best friends. They ride or die together. So how do you think that this is going to affect the relationship between LeBron and the Los Angeles Lakers? I mean, do you think that maybe he didn't know about this, or he's just playing it off and he did know about it? Or do you think that maybe LeBron's going to be angry now and be like, guys, you traded my best friend and didn't even tell me? I want out of here now too. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think the fact that no one really knew about this, I think is 100% true. And to be truthful, I've seen some interviews percolate about Nico Harrison, who's the GM of the Mavericks, who essentially called the Lakers, a cold call, essentially bringing this up. And of course, like, the Lakers are like, sure, we'll entertain that you're going to get rid of Luka. And I can understand that, like, let's get LeBron's approval. But at the same time, like, let's not forget, LeBron's the guy that orchestrated to trade away Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, 3 first-round picks over to the Pelicans to even get Anthony Davis. Sure, right. We got 1 championship from that, but the several seasons following that, we didn't have any assets to really trade to bolster up the roster. So it was just a 2-man band for a long time. And I think what the Lakers are trying to do this season is, LeBron is on his way out, like, whether it be this season, which I don't think. I think he's going to do at least 1 more. So assuming he has 1 more season, that doesn't mean that we need to orchestrate a trade that's going to put us back another 10 years for LeBron. So if I'm the Lakers, I can understand, like, look, we really do need to address the future. We just hired this new head coach, JJ Redick. We do have Dalton Connect, obviously Austin Reeves, and a bunch of other role players that maybe could have some foundation into something as you have something. We have now Luka, and now we're going to see, like, what we can do further. But I think, will it cause a rift with LeBron? Possibly. But I would also argue, too, that LeBron has already had a rift with Laker brass, because sometimes they won't pull the trigger and grab a guy that LeBron really wants. But again, I will remind people that LeBron James, a.k.a. Le GM, was also the orchestrator from getting Russell Wilson, or not Russell Wilson, Westbrook. He tried to campaign to get Kyrie Irving when he was kind of like, no one really wanted to mess with him. And a couple of other, like, key moves that, like, were a little questionable, like getting Carmelo Anthony, like, when he was kind of way past his prime. We did him a solid by drafting Bronny James. Not saying that Bronny James isn't going to be a good player, but right now, like, he's a 2nd-round draft pick. And, right. He gets some minutes on garbage time, and that's fine. But we have bent our knee to LeBron. And for the Lakers to think about the future is only appropriate. And if it causes a rift, I think so be it. But I don't know if there's a team that LeBron can go to and be just as close to getting a championship, and anyone that's going to take on his salary, because I think he's owed like 60-something million this year. So that's a lot of money that a team's going to have to eat. Maybe Golden State, but the Lakers won't do what the Mavs did and just give him over for a bag of chips. They will get the best offer for LeBron if that's the case. And truthfully, LeBron has until Thursday to make any demands. So you can be unhappy, or you can, just roll with the punches and figure out what you want to do in the offseason. So that's my thing about it. Like, if LeBron's upset, that's fine. But at the same time, we have done this years and years and years, where we have done what LeBron has asked, hired coaches, signed players. So right. The Lakers, it's time for them to kind of take over their team and actually push to the future.
And you talk about the future, this trade, to build around Luka. And to me, Luka is top 5. He is an amazing talent when he is on. He is so much fun to watch. He's one of my top 5 guys to kind of, I would pay and love to go see. How do you build around him now? So like you talk about assets, you guys gave away a lot in trying to get Anthony Davis, and now you kind of give him away for Luka. And that's really it. I mean, you don't get any extra picks. You guys need some salary cap. You're going to have to pay Luka. I think since he's been traded, now the Lakers have to sign him for $330 million. I'm trying to remember what that was. I was trying to do my research here real quick. So you're going to have to give him a boatload of money. So how do you rebuild around Luka now? Essentially getting LeBron James out of the way, because he's only got a few years left if he does. So what do you do now? And then what do you do at center? It's hilarious because, of course, these things don't age well. Anthony Davis, we need to pick up another center. He was talking last week, like, we need to trade for a center. We need another big man. And then they turn around and trade him away. So, like, now you guys, what do you do at that center position? How do you really form this team now around Luka Doncic? Because Luka, the Mavericks was his team. That was Luka's team. He was the alpha. Now you're going to the Lakers, even though he's on his way out. This is LeBron's team. So how does that dynamic going to fit? And then how do those Lakers really build for the future around Luka?
Well, to be truthful, the true rebuild to like go around Luka probably won't happen until this offseason. Because right now, an argument could be made, and I made this to my my best friend, who's also my co-host, Drew, which I said, look, we started the day as a 5th seed and a solid 5th seed with AD. And that means we're in a playoff spot. Will we get past the first round? Potentially, depending on matchups. Today, now that we have Luka, I would say we're probably a 6th pick, maybe a borderline play-in team for that very same reason. No defense. We need to look for a center. Now, I do think, though, that the Lakers' plans to not really retool does now change, because this is before Luka was brought to the table. I do think that they will be buyers at the trade deadline for a center. Quality center is really tough, and I don't know how many teams are willing to give up a big right now. So Lakers are going to be pretty, are going to almost overpay for somebody that's like not as good quality, but we need a big in there somewhere in some way. You're not going to rely on Jackson Hayes. And I don't even think Christian Wood is that productive. I don't even think he's on the team anymore. So the only 2 notable big that we did have, they're not answers. But what I would say to like what the Lakers could do to build around Luka is kind of a blueprint around LeBron. Luka is a very good shooter. He's a very good creator. So what you can do is you can get guys, preferably 2-way, because we really do need to work on our defense, is you get some guys that can be spot-up shooters, because that's where the NBA is now, is behind the 3-point line. Yep. And to your credit, for an episode that you had regarding Steph Curry, is, for lack of a better term, he ruined the NBA, because it's not about penetrating and 2 points anymore. The value's in the 3-pointers, which Luka's very good about either penetrating or being out on that arc and being able to shoot up a shot. And he's got to put it in 9 out of 10 times. So you get a bunch of other players that can at least move the ball around, and we can create a little bit of offense of, pick and roll, maybe, especially if we get somebody that's a comparable shooter. Dalton Knecht, though, who is a very versatile player, might be able to fit that mold. And so it just depends on the route that the Lakers do. But what I would also say too is, now that there's Luka on the Lakers now look pretty attractive to other incoming free agents, which is a big reason why, like, having this trade and the Lakers not really giving up a ton is so important, because not only could they sign Luka, I think the extension would be like 4 years and $229, I think, or a 3-year at $168 or something, some number like that. But that would also mean that they do have draft picks to then draft for depth, or use them for bargaining to acquire another player. Like what if Brandon Ingram again comes available, because, the Pelicans aren't doing anything with him. Right. Maybe that's another sign. Timberwolves will look into offset Julius Randle. Like, that could be another player that is added. Now, will it add any quality? I don't know. But still, point being is there's a rotation of free agents that'll come available that might look at the Lakers, because not only will you get to play with Luka, but you'll play in the number one or one of the number one cities in the league in terms of marketability, notoriety, building your brand, because it's always been since the beginning of time either LA or New York. And now that New York is up on the up and coming, now you got the Lakers kind of doing the same thing. And it might look like an arms race between the two. And that's why having Luka and still retaining a lot of your assets is that important.
I tell you what, it definitely was a shot. I was surprised because I would have thought maybe even Kyrie back to Lakers, because I know that was talked about. But to see Luka now, Luka Laker is going to be interesting. And the biggest thing I'm curious to watch is that dynamic between Luka and LeBron James, because you talk about two different personalities. So that's going to be very interesting to see where this dynamic really develops and how LeBron welcomes Luka into the mix. So this is going to be pretty interesting. It's a huge splash, but there's a lot of questions to be answered. Now, on the flip side, with the Mavericks, get rid of Luka, who was he's your alpha dog. He was your number one. So
he
now
was a franchise
player. That's what makes this mind-boggling and hard to even talk about, because I feel like I'm talking about like what ifs, and because I usually come up with crazy trades and things in my brain. So for this to actually come to fruition is pretty insane. But now, how does that dynamic? Now you got Kyrie, now you got AD, Clay. How do the Mavericks take this and run with it? AD coming off that injury, he's out probably another week or so, I think, with that strain. So where does this leave the Mavericks? Because they literally just unloaded their franchise player, the guy that's on all the billboards. They're going to have to sell their jerseys half price now. I mean, it's just what would have led them to do this? I mean, to me, I don't know. I think this is more than just conditioning. What are your thoughts on that?
There's got to be more than just he comes out of shape. I mean, every NBA player is out of shape at some point in time at the start of the season. James Harden is really noticeable, as really like a big notable name that has been notorious for not being in shape. Zion Williamson, he seems to can't get himself into shape, even though he's being paid absorbative amount of money. But, I just think, look, you got guys that train literally 10 months out of the year, give it their all. They take a 2-week break. Your body kind of just relax. And then you got to ramp it back up, where LeBron, and I think this is where maybe LeBron has ruined the league a little bit, where he's known to spend a lot of money for care in his body, which goes to show like what that does. It pays off in dividends, which is 22 years in the league, 40 years old, and he's still dropping triple doubles on a nightly basis. It feels like,
But what hyperbaric chamber, I don't know what it is.
It must be.
I got to get me one of those. I'm getting old too, so I'm got to get me one of those.
Same. I think I need to go on eBay and see if there's one for used sale or something, Exactly. But I think with the Mavericks, and here's my initial thoughts with it, I don't think it's as bad as a trade this season as it looks on paper. Now, if we're talking 5 years, 10 years, Mavericks just basically gave away their best player that they've had on their franchise since Dirk Nowitzki. Like, no doubt. There's absolutely no two ways about that. But what I would say, though, is what they got back is a player who is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, a previous NBA champion. And don't forget, they added Klay Thompson this offseason, who's a 3-time champion. You still have Kyrie, who's a champion with LeBron. You got Jason Kidd, who's coaching, who is a champion as well from a player and a coach standpoint. So there's a lot of experience. And you have Anthony Davis, who you can use, who has proven on a nightly basis, you can rely on him for offensive production. And I can imagine that maybe a little bit more of a spark than what we even saw with LA gets lit even more because of, I got to prove the haters wrong, or I'm going to show the Lakers what they are missing out. And I can absolutely see the Dallas Mavericks not only being a top 4 team in the West, I would not be shocked if they are like in the Western Conference Finals. And I'm being dead honest. Like, I think this year, and I would even say maybe next year, depending on what they do in free agency, of course, they could be a legit threat in the West immediately. And if that's what they're going for, that's what they've got. And that's totally fine. Because I think there's something with experience, Kyrie, who can handle the ball and shoot. You give it to Anthony Davis, who's really good about working off the ball. Klay Thompson, who's a really good spot-up shooter. You have a lot of other role players on Dallas who were very productive. PJ Washington, for example, very productive. And this is with Luka out with an injury currently. I think that this Dallas team immediately could look a lot more improved. Later in the future, though, not so much. I think that's where like we see contract situations, injuries, team underperforms because, you know, their best shot is probably right now and maybe next season. After that, the Mavericks probably aren't that big of a threat just because of those other factors I mentioned. But I would say Mavericks have a chance to get to the Western Conference Finals with how they're tooled today.
And I can see that if you get the real AD, not the broken AD street clothes, if you get the real AD who gets you 30 and 15, I can see them being a force, especially now in that West where you kind of need some size. You got Victor Wembanyama to deal with, who can play in and out. You talk about a rim presence. Excuse me, Chet Holmgren, when he gets healthy with OKC, you talk about someone with length and rim presence. So there is a lot of size in the West. And that's the other thing that I was surprised with the Lakers making this trade, is doing it in the West. So now, no matter what, you may have to face AD. You may, you're going to have to face Luka. So that dynamic too was just, which also made this, on top of everything else, made this trade very, very interesting. Is a lot of times when you get superstars or these big trades like that, they try to send them as far away as they can. I'm going to send them to an Eastern Conference guy. You think, well, maybe if they're, trading AD away, they send them to, I don't think they would do with the Celtics, but you would say, okay, we're going to go to the Knicks, or we're going to say the 76ers with Joel Embiid, to talk about a superstar that kind of can't get right. So to do this in the West, as strong as the West is, as tall as the West is, that was very, very interesting move from the Lakers here.
Yeah, Jason, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
You know what's crazy is, I hope you would agree with this, that it's crazy that we're in a day where Luka is traded before Jimmy Butler, with all the antics that Jimmy Butler has done. And to equate like what this is like, this would be like if Pat Riley called up, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who he hates outright, and says, hey, give me, I don't know, Jared Allen, and I'll give you Jimmy Butler straight up. That's essentially like what this trade is. But I'm curious, how do you feel about the Mavericks? Like, reportedly, they're calling the Lakers just on their own and getting this started. Like, what's your initial thoughts on that?
Again, shock. You're talking about, there's got to be more to this. Like, not liking the way the guy's diet is, not coming in conditioning. Look, I get that. You have a bona fide worldwide superstar on your hands, because Luka, of course, is not from here. So he is a world presence. If you're not happy with the way he's conditioning, you hire some guys, you tell him to drop the little Debbies, and you get him out there, and you get him healthy, and you get him ready, and you kind of make him understand. I'm worried that there is something else that we're really not seeing. So for the Mavericks to say, guys, come get this dude, we don't want him anymore, that speaks volumes. That something else is going to come out in the wash. I mean, I hope not. I hope I'm wrong, that there's not something deeper here. But it is shocking for Mark Cuban and that team to do that. I mean, they are notorious for kind of getting rid of some younger guys. I appreciate them getting rid of Jalen Brunson. Thank you so much to the Dallas Mavericks, because Jalen Brunson is on my New York Knicks MVP watch with him. But shocking and curious to know what was going on with, and then why they would pick the Lakers. Like, I understand shopping Luka, but again, why are you doing it in the West? Now you're going to have to face him.
Right.
Now you're going to have to possibly go through him in some kind of playoff scenario, because it's going to happen. Murphy's Law. The Lakers and the Mavericks at some point in time are going to meet up in a playoff atmosphere, and you're going to have these two guys on the court. So the drama is going to be immense with that. So I don't know what to think of it, man. It just, what did he do wrong? Yeah, you talked about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler talked trash about the team, didn't want to get on the plane. I'm walking out of practice. I don't want to be here anymore. Get me the heck out of here. All his shenanigans that he pulled, suspended 3 different times.
Yeah.
He doesn't go anywhere.
Preach. I mean, Jimmy Butler can't get off the team, and Luka wants to, from all accounts, wants to stay on the team, and they don't. The Dallas Mavs were like, here, take him for nothing in return for their future. So
a bag of chips. Now, the other question, and the biggest one I have here, is do you think this is going to have a ripple effect in the NBA? Because we've had some blockbuster trades, and we're going to talk about a little bit here. I like to do my top 5 lists, and I got this with Cody. We're going to do our top 5 and biggest NBA trades of all time. We'll do that, real quick at the end of the show here. But does this send a ripple effect from now until Thursday at 3:00? That's the NBA trade deadline. Do a lot of teams go, wow, they traded Luka, their big star. I guess I could do that now. I mean, do you think that's going to cause some other teams to start wanting to unload some players that they don't want anymore? And again, I talked about the 76ers. You look at Joel Embiid, who's never available, has missed 425 games in his career. Zion Williamson, who is also unavailable. And we talked about, not coming into shape. So, I mean, do you see this really having a ripple effect the next week before the trade deadline ends, and you'll see some other big kind of crazy blockbuster?
I think the ripple effect would have been more felt in the NBA had this trade package that Dallas got back was bigger. And what I mean by that is, again, you pointed out Zion Williamson. He's the one like superstar that I would figure into this example of like the same magnitude, so to speak. And I'm not trying to say that Zion's on the same level as Luka. In my opinion, there is no level that Luka is on. I think he's literally a player by himself. But what my point being is like Zion Williamson has this quote unquote generational talent. The Pelicans can't seem to tap into that or get him in shape. So maybe the Pelicans do, okay, we're going to offer up Zion Williamson. What's the best package? Which, if I'm not mistaken, David Griffin, who's still on the Pelicans, is the orchestrator of who built the championship team for the Cavaliers. So he's no stranger to putting together packages to better the future of his team. But I think that'd be the only team that maybe feels confident, like, you know what, we'll go trade and get the best we can to retool our team immediate. But I actually think that you won't see as many big time players get dealt, because I think what they're going to see is the GM who prematurely agreed to a trade off of one team that he called on himself with no real negotiation. I think if anything, it's going to put other teams on notice to be like, okay, let's check in with our superstar. Okay. Let's make sure we got them under wraps on a contract. Let's make sure they're all good and being communicative. Because I think if anything, the ripple effect you're going to see is maybe now Giannis does sign that 3rd extension and stay with Milwaukee, even though there's reports that he wants to go. Maybe then you see Brunson, who does now stay with the Knicks on another extension when he's eligible, rather than allowing him to go shop around. I just think that Dallas, the blueprint of getting rid of Luka is going to hurt them more than the ripple effect of the NBA of giving permission to trade everybody. And I think that's because they screwed themselves by not getting the best package for Luka. They just traded him off of their own call, their own like, hey, what about we do this? And that was it. There was no internal stuff, no opportunity to get the best package for him, because I bet they would have got a better package in the offseason if everyone knew that Luka was available.
That's true. And that's even more shocking with this whole trade is you would think there would be some bigger negotiations, and you would have heard that going back and forth. You're hearing that with Beal and the Heat wanting to go kind of back and forth because they want Jimmy Butler. They want to get rid of Beal. Beal has a no trade clause. I mean, a lot going on. But yeah, usually some of those blockbuster deals, you see a ton of players and a ton of capital and cash. You see all kinds of stuff for it to be essentially literally just AD. You're swapping Luka for AD, and he's only 25. He's got a lot of life left in him if he can get healthy and stay healthy. So yeah, shocking, man. It is. I think we're all still trying to process this. This is still super new. And we're going to see how the rest of this week plays out, man. It's because again, you got the trade deadline. Here's Thursday at 3:00, and boom, waking up Sunday morning,
Yeah,
Here's the
it's going to
first
be
mega deal, man.
I think this is going to open the floodgates to a lot of interesting trades that probably didn't happen since now this happened. I think that's more likely. But yeah, dude, I agree. This sent shockwaves around the NBA that I don't think have been felt in a long time. And I would even say this has bigger magnitudes than when KD was traded or James Harden, just because these implications, to your credit, are going to ripple through the NBA in different ways that we might not see quite yet, but it's going to change the landscape of the NBA for sure.
I think it's even bigger than that because you talk about the
Yeah.
sports world in general. I think this, just some of the tweets and some of the guys that were tweeting, you're seeing NFL players, you're seeing Major League Baseball players like commenting on this. So I think this is like beyond the NBA. This is like, and again, we talk about worldwide. This is the sports world in general to
Right.
see a top player like Luka Doncic, top 5. Talent.
One of the faces of marketability in the NBA, because again, they're known as now a global brand, rightfully so.
Yep.
One of their global, faces of the league has been traded. And I think that's what's alarming is like if Luka can get traded, yeah, the NBA is really notorious for like, well, if you're not doing it for me, I'm just going to get rid of you. But that doesn't mean that that's good business for said team. So I'm curious to see what happens. And yeah, dude, it's going to be a wild 4 days or 5 days, I think, until the trade deadline. And then post All-Star week, when we kind of get into like the actual nitty-gritty of the NBA season, it's going to be probably one of the more memorable seasons. And ironically enough, it started as the lowest viewed season to start. Yeah. And now it's just going to kick off. Like this now, the real season just started,
Bananas. And you talked about, again, playoffs. At some point in time, I can see it already. The Mavericks and the Lakers are going to meet up somehow in the playoffs. It's just inevitable. This is insane. So, but talking about these kind of trades again, it got me thinking, because yes, the NBA is notorious for blockbuster. Just you traded who? It's head scratching trades. So I'm going to give you the floor first. I want to hear your top 5 biggest NBA trades of all time. I know it's a huge list because there's a lot of big trades that have happened throughout the history of the NBA. So give me your top 5 biggest NBA trades of all time.
All right. I will do my best not to make it overwhelmingly Lakers because ironically enough, a lot of these huge trades involve the Lakers for better or for worse. So we'll see. I think top 5, though, this is appropriate because this trade in particular at my number 5 spot is kind of like where the NBA is today. And it did propel a franchise into prosperity to where they are now on the cusp of potential title tendership. And that was the Paul George to the Clippers trade, or when they traded him to OKC. And here's why, because OKC received, Gallinari, Shea, like he has been an MVP candidate for every season that he's been there. Not only that, but the 3 first-round picks that the Clippers received that they are now or gave away that are being used for essential players on the OKC. And the Clippers getting back Paul George, who is not even on the team any longer. Right. I think this is one of my top 5 trades that is making magnitudes. You want to talk about a ripple effect. That trade, in my opinion, you can trace back to like where the OKC took off. The Clippers thought that they were going to be title contenders. And then unfortunately, we probably got the worst superstar pairing between Leonard and Paul George that never came to fruition. Yeah. And one of the bigger duds. And now one of them is still on the team and he's played less than 50% of available games. And Paul George is now on the 76ers, another team that's kind of like in no man's land as well. So that'd be number 5 for me personally. Number 4, this one is just because I love the historical factor of this one, is when KG got traded to Boston in the summer of 2007. The reason why I love that one is because literally earlier in that summer, Boston also traded for Ray Allen. Right. And they really solidified them being title contenders by getting KG, who won Defensive Player of the Year that season as well. An argument could be made is that was the first birth of the quote unquote big.
Yep.
Exactly. Because that year, and again, all those players fit so well together. And Doc Rivers' only championship came with that big three. You had KG, Paul Pierce, you had Ray Allen, all in their primes.
Yeah.
All three of them all-starred that year. They were running through the league and unfortunately ran through my Lakers, and they beat them in 6, I think, in the finals.
Yeah.
But no doubt that trade right there really kind of turned a lot of franchises around because they then started following that specific model. And that's how we saw a lot of 2 spots for Supermax to build a big three and all that stuff. Kind of that was the birth of it, is what I would say. And that's why, to me, it's number 4 right now. Number 3, and I hope that you respect this one, and hopefully Michael respects it too, but this is when Miami Heat traded for Shaquille O'Neal from the Lakers. So Heat got Shaq, Lakers got Lamar Odom, who was on our championship team, Caron Butler, who eventually went on to the Wizards, Brian Grant, who didn't stay on the team much longer. The first round pick that we did get turned into Jordan Farmer, who did help bring home a championship 2 years consecutively once we used that draft pick. That was huge also, too, because Miami Heat got Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal, and they took down, ironically enough, the Dallas Mavericks in their first bid for the NBA Finals championship. And I think that was huge because that was the first sign of probably arguably the greatest duo in NBA history with Shaq and Kobe, the breakup. Yeah. And then for Pat Riley to come in and take Shaq and within the first 2 years, take him to the championship and bring it home for them. And you can tell Shaq at the moment was the most pivotal player, but long-term it was Kobe. So I just want to say that is a pivotal for me. Number 2 on my list, this is probably where the first Laker one comes up. And funny enough, it's actually probably not the Luka one, but it was the AD being traded to the Lakers because the Lakers get AD a championship with AD. But I think the ripple effect that we talk about that happened in this one, which is Lonzo goes to the Pelicans along with Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, 3 first-round picks that, David Griffin kind of collected, as what we talked about. He's really good about collecting assets. Now all those players respectfully have dispersed into their own respective team. Josh Hart, who ironically enough is a huge part of your Knicks, who is the heart, the soul, the motor of that team. And then you got Lonzo Ball, who's now coming back with Chicago. You got Brandon Ingram, who's probably someone that's going to get traded at the deadline. So I think that's pivotal because that was the Lakers bringing in a big to bring back a championship because they won the 2020 championship, regardless of it in the bubble. But that was the last championship that they won, bringing in AD, which I think is pretty pivotal. Number 1, and this is for those that are history buffs like you, Jason. Kobe Bryant being traded to the Lakers.
Oh, that's right.
The draft of 96 from Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets gets Vlade Divac. They had 2 back-to-back 50-win seasons. After that, it was nothing but despair for them. And Kobe Bryant went on to have a 20-year career that we all love, cherish, and respect. And then also, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant, arguably the all-time greatest Laker ever. I mean, even though LeBron has been with the Lakers now, you have Magic, you have named the player that has played with the Lakers. Kobe Bryant is the Lakers. Lakers are Kobe Bryant. That's my number 1 all-time trade right there. Kobe Bryant traded to the Lakers in 96.
Wow, that's good. That's a very good list, man. That's insane. I forgot. I even kind of forgot all about that because that's one of those draft day ones you don't even think about, just kind of tucked away.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. My number 5. I'm a huge AI fan, even though I'm a New York Knick. I loved Allen Iverson. I am short, and I love to play basketball, so I kind of love Allen Iverson. So Allen Iverson getting traded to the Nuggets in 2006, they got 76ers got Andre Miller, Joe Smith, and a couple of first-round picks. But AI leaving Philadelphia, he was the heart and soul of the Philadelphia 76ers, dragged them to a finals where they lost to Kobe and the Lakers. But just seeing him, and then he got to pair with Carmelo Anthony, one of my favorite players in Denver. It was just weird to see, and it was kind of the first time I really experienced one of my favorite players leaving that jersey. Just seeing, you always thought Allen Iverson was going to be a Sixer for life kind of deal. So that was my number 5. Number 4, you already brought it up, Shaq to the Heat, ending his run in LA in 2004. That vaulted the Miami Heat. I was living in Florida at the time, and I remember the fanfare when they welcomed Shaq. It was on live news. They cut away. They had this whole big parade for him. But you would have thought with the Kobe and Shaq drama, they would have kind of got through it. And I know Kobe was probably at some point like on the trading block too. He actually talked about leaving, whether it was free agency. So the Lakers, could have moved on from both, but for them to trade away Shaq and then to give Kobe that space, he turns around and gets his championships without Shaq, which solidified really, I think, his greatness was not having Shaq with him. Paul Gasol is great and a Hall of Fame player, but he's not Shaq. So for Kobe to really spread his wings without Shaquille O'Neal was huge. But then for him to come and play next to D Wade in Miami and bring the Miami Heat a championship, that was huge. That was one of my biggest ones. Number 3, 1992. Another 76er, Sir Charles Barkley, the round mound of rebound, when he got traded to the Suns. You would have thought he would have been a Sixer for life. Going to the Suns, you trade him to the desert. What's he going to do in the desert? But then led the Suns to the finals in 1993, won a league MVP, played with Danny Ainge, Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley. They had a phenomenal team. Unfortunately, they ran into the Mr. Michael Jordan, and there's not much you can do with that. But that was a huge trade because you would have never thought he was going to leave. You thought he was going to be a 76er for life, and he's a Hall of Famer. So you're trading away your Hall of Fame star player who's on all the billboards. You trade him away to the Suns, and he turns around and wins an MVP and makes it to the finals. Unfortunately, never got a ring. Look up his stats, guys. If you've never seen Charles Barkley stats,
he was legit.
A monster on the stats, man. He was amazing. So my number 2, we're going to go in the way back machine here. 1956. The St. Louis Hawks trade Bill Russell to the Boston Celtics for Ed Macaulay and Cliff Hagan. So you want to talk about the birth of a dynasty. The St. Louis Hawks, of course, who aren't even didn't even exist anymore. Bill Russell, the greatest champion we've ever seen, 11 rings. So what would have happened if the Celtics never traded for him or never got him? I mean, it's amazing. It's one of those trades I don't think everybody ever thinks about or even knows that happened. But without the Celtics having Bill Russell, the Celtics don't have those dynasties. I don't think they do the run that they have. So Bill Russell, greatest champion of all time, was traded. He was never picked by the Celtics, which is insane. And I will pull a Los Angeles Laker in there. My number 1, the year I was born, 1975, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a.k.a. Lou Alcindor, 1971, won the championship for the Bucks. And then 4 years later, he's like, guys, get me out of here. Send me to L.A. And what does he proceed to do? Wins a championship at 80, 82, 85, 87, 88. One of the greatest basketball players of all time. He's still in my top 5, even though LeBron James has passed him in points. He wasn't known for shooting threes, so he made all his baskets doing like the sky hook and playing down low. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, my number 1 trade, because those Lakers dynasties
don't happen without him.
Magic Johnson. I think Magic Johnson is, and again, in one of my top 5s too. I think Magic Johnson was one of the greatest. There is a ton of Lakers. Kobe Bryant is up there too. But that was my number 1 was Kareem, because that changed the landscape and brought in the 80s, it brought the NBA out of the darkness of the 70s, because throughout those 70s, the NBA was dark, man. You had tape delay. No one wanted to see games. Everybody thought it was a thug league. There was tons of fights. And then all of a sudden, the Lake Show turns it on, and it becomes a phenomenon. Now people want to watch the NBA. You
Yeah.
put Kareem and Magic, it became a global event. So that was my top 5, man. I appreciate you playing along. That's awesome. I love your list too, man. And I thank you very much for being here, Cody. This is awesome for you to come on to 3 from Deep, my first guest ever. So I thank you very much. What a thing to talk about, man. This is why we love sports, to see this kind of trade and your jaw hit the floor and you're almost speechless. What can you say? But as a Laker fan, man, what do you think? Luka Laker, you're gonna
I gotta get me a number 77 jersey pretty soon, so that way we jump on the hype train. I mean, probably one of the most exciting trades we've had in recent memory. And again, you called out Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I just put an AD. We didn't even talk about Pau Gasol. I talked about Kobe Bryant. I mean, again, the Lakers, it seems like through the history of the NBA, make really good trades for their franchise. This is another one of them. And I'm really honored that I got to talk about it on your show, Jason, and I appreciate it. If you need me on anymore, man, please let me know. And everybody stay tuned, because Jason might be making an appearance on Drew Code, and that's already been in the works. So stay tuned for that. I
appreciate that. Cody, tell everybody where they can find you, man, before I get you out of here. Go for it.
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube. Drew Code Sports Talk is the name for everything. We're available essentially wherever podcasts are, YouTube, as I mentioned. More importantly, though, you guys need to subscribe to this show. This is a fun show on the Boom broadcast. I've made a really good connection with not only Michael, but you, Jason. I've got to, have conversations with Wayne. I've got to see all your guys' content and stuff. So I'm a supporter and a fan. And so not only do I hope I get the subscribers from this video, but everyone needs to go support Jason in this show, in this channel. They're having a lot of fun, and it's fun to watch. So everyone needs to join in on it.
I appreciate that. I'm humbled, man. I'm humbled. I thank you very much. So it was good seeing you. It's not over. We got some more days until the trade deadline. So who knows? This may be the first of multiple mega deals. So we may have to do something again here, man. So I appreciate it. It was great having you on, Cody. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, buddy. Appreciate you. And thank you guys very much for joining me again. This is Jason Calenzo, 3 from Deep from Boom Broadcasting Network. Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, 12 p.m. Check us out on the Boom Broadcasting Network on the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Send me some comments. Send me some questions. I appreciate you guys so much for joining me. What an exciting time to be an NBA fan. Thank you guys. Peace. I'll see you on Wednesday.